passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in! Touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
A swing and a drive! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jarid Watson, and this podcast is a part of Waiting for Next Year. You can check them out at waitingfornextyear.com. All original Cleveland sports content for you, the Cleveland sports fan. First of all, before I even tell you what the show's about, I want to welcome all new listeners. I know that we've got a handful of new folks that have filed in and are enjoying the show, the podcast. Some of you are sliding over via an article that was written in The Ringer the other day. They're doing a whole Browns Week theme at The Ringer. So, again, shout out to them. Thanks for that attention. Andy, I like the national attention. It's definitely helped us out a little bit here. Today's show, we're going to talk about the Browns heading into Tampa. Actually, that kickoff's going to happen in just a little bit here at time of recording. And Baker's GQ article, we'll talk about that briefly. Last week, the Browns were in Indy, practiced twice with the Colts, and won a second preseason game, 21-18. That was nice. But did it really matter? Did you really learn a lot? I don't know. Observations from the first two preseason games. We'll just kind of go over a few things and ongoing battles for right guard and kicker. That Cush guy, right? The Cush guy is making himself his presence known.
There's a new guy too that we're going to talk about. I always forget his name. Who's come out of nowhere. You give me 1 second. I can get his name.
Pull it
Forbes.
up.
Drew Forbes. He is silently becoming the leader in the clubhouse.
And then we're also going to we'll talk quickly on Antonio Callaway. You know, a lot of these things I think that we can just kind of touch on. I don't want to beat dead horses, but yeah.
Well, I think Callaway's interesting, and we'll get into why. I think Callaway's interesting though. It's much more than just a short topic. It's an ongoing what's next, anyway.
I think I'm just sitting on the. Well, I'll get into it obviously when we start talking about it. Tribe implosion. Goodness gracious, I'm lost for words right now with the Indians. Is 3-game sweep at the hands of the Mets. The best social media, in my opinion, in the league, got thrashed after the sweep. That's another story as well. But first, your preseason 2-0 Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
So let's get to the latest magazine article. The Browns are doing a great job of keeping print important, whether it is ESPN the magazine, whether it is a multitude of publications, the latest one being GQ again. By the way, they couldn't get enough of the Browns. Think about this. GQ not only tackled Odell Beckham Jr., they had to get Baker Mayfield as well. The Baker article, what really came, again, similar to the ESPN article, if you read through it, a lot of things that we knew about Baker's Browns fans was not new news. The one thing, which was so obvious to me and everyone, was the Daniel Jones comments. For people who didn't hear, or maybe even under a rock, here it is real quickly. And you know, comments in question are these: I cannot believe the Giants took Daniel Jones, end quote. Blows my mind. And then, you know, some people overthink it. That's where people go wrong. They forget what you got to win. Either you have history of winning and being that way, or you don't. Baker immediately came back out on Instagram and other social media saying, hey, that's not true. I never said those things. And then he also did a press conference saying he reached out to Daniel Jones, which was the right thing to do. And you know, all that to be said, you know, obviously I think Baker learned some lessons here. Sometimes, you know, even when you say things, well, no matter how you say them, a reporter will pick up on them and report them. I just hope you know, we talked about this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now I did not realize GQ was going to do a whole thing on Baker. And by the way, they did some stuff too on Odell Beckham Jr. again. Jared, here's where I come out on all this.
Yep.
I love how the Browns have had all this momentum. I love how they've had all this national attention. I didn't think I was going to get there. I'm here now. I'm officially tapped out.
Well, I mean, it ran its course, Andy. It ran its course. And I would say this. We know that there are aspects of that quote that may have been taken out of context. We also can acknowledge the fact that Baker wouldn't have been the only one who was surprised by the pick by the Giants.
That's right.
We also, at least I think you can agree with this, Andy. We both have worked in media for decades. We're probably combined more than 2
40
decades,
years.
20,
Yeah.
30. Yeah, exactly, 40. So at this point, what I would say to young Baker Mayfield is, bro, you got to know when you're on the record and off the record as well, right? I mean, you can shoot the shit all you want. But when you're shooting the shit with a reporter and you're not clarifying, hey, off the record, I was surprised, or at least having that conversation prior to, to setting the ground rules with what's quotable and what's not. Those things need to be set up front. The expectations. If you're a guy like Baker Mayfield, you got to take control kind of your image in that sense and not be so lax with the words. No?
Well, right. What I'll say is, it's harder to decipher because we weren't there. Whether he said what happened, I don't know. What I would tell him from all this is, you kind of alluded to it, and I'll hammer it with, I think Baker did learn this. Sometimes, whether it's a conversation or whatever, as soon as you sit down and the microphone or whatever goes on,
yes,
it's on. And so you need to be prepared for that to be said at one point or another. He probably learned that today.
Right.
And he learned that all week, actually. I shouldn't say today. He learned that this week. All that to be said, Baker did the right thing. He reached out to Daniel Jones.
Absolutely.
He clarified his comments and he moved on. And that's all you can really do. The one thing that I kind of took out of all this, though, is the Giants-Browns rivalry is very real, and it's not there. They don't play the Giants every year, or even any.
Yeah, I've heard people say, wouldn't it be fun if we played the Giants more often?
Oh, boy, that'd be a great rivalry. So all that to be said, this will probably die itself down. That's why it's kind of funny. This has a lot of steam, but it will settle down once the season starts. The one thing this did, because I live in this part of the country, and I live in an area where there's a lot of Giants fans. The Giants took this whole moment as Giants fandom as a win for the Giants, because they thought the Browns looked really bad. And they thought Baker Mayfield looked really bad.
Yeah, but...
So the one... hold on. Right. Here's what I'd say. I think that's, by the way, that's stupid. And the play on the field is going to shut up everybody.
No, that's typical New York mentality, though.
That's right.
Like taking something that clearly didn't work out in their, that isn't in their favor, and making it, wearing it like a badge of honor or something. Like, what do you...
Absolutely. That's what they do. And the other thing, too, weird, that I didn't put in here, but we should talk about, Odell Beckham Jr. also had another article come out saying that he was traded to the Cleveland Browns basically to die out his career. That's all these different storylines, the Daniel Joneses, which Baker and whatever, it was taken out of context. And with Odell Beckham Jr., time for the season to start, Jared. Time for the season to start. Because there's been a lot of articles, there have been a lot of things, and I loved it. I loved all of it. But as we all know, you get to a certain point where sometimes the hype has become exhausting. I think from what I can tell from Twitter, from what I can tell from social, from what I can tell from other platforms and other mediums, Browns fans are tapped out. I feel that way. I'm tapped out. I can't do another article. I can't. It's time. When's
unless we're in it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, now that has nothing to do with the Browns. If anybody, GQ would like to. By the way, people should see what Jared and I are wearing. There's not two more stylish people in America. It's Jared Watson and myself.
Svelte is the word.
I can wear an oversized sweatshirt better than anybody. But but again, going back to what we're getting to here, it's time for the season to start. It's a big thing I took out of all this. The only other thing that I would get to again, the Browns do need to be observant. They are the team that is going to be marked and watched all year. So even simple things like this with Daniel Jones, or even something simple after the game, they need to be careful, really careful, because they have the bullseye, they have the target, and more things to come like this, Jared. So be thoughtful and be wise about what you do and don't say in the press.
Andy, I would refer to what I'm wearing as more of a Bruce Arians get-up with the hat and the glasses.
It is. Yes, it is. Yeah. I would say mine is more like the football dad who's eating a lot of Swedish fish.
You can cut the sleeves off of that and call it the Belichick. That's what you can do with that hoodie. Cut the sleeves off the hoodie. You do the Belichick. I'll do the Bruce Arians with the hat and the glasses, and GQ will be waiting by our phone.
I'll let Belichick do his thing there. I was going to say Darth Vader, but I actually don't mind Belichick as much as people do.
I don't either.
Anyways,
go ahead.
But anyways, that's GQ in a nutshell and everything else. for everything that kind of happened going up into the Bucks game, we're going to do another podcast shortly after this, so we're not going to get too much into the week events. Because
and by the way, we promise we're going to do another podcast soon after this. We really owe you guys an apology because we were supposed to do one last Monday and everything. We wet the bed. We wet the bed on it, and we apologize. We got sucked into other obligations, and that until we start getting paid for this, Andy. This is how it's going to be. Once that
Cadillac sponsorship comes through, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
But things to watch for tonight, and this is via Grossi, so I give Grossi all the credit, but some of these things we kind of already knew.
Yep.
The big thing tonight that kind of came out this week is the wide receiver class has kind of shaped itself out. It's definitely going to be Higgins as 3, we all know. It sounds like Strong's going to have a role in this team, and really sounds like Willie's is going to have a role in this team, so that's your 5. Sounds like your 6 is going to really be Damian Ratley at this point, with Giuseppe really falling off. I don't follow practice intently, but I know in the week in Indy they were not happy with the drop balls. I know that this week too, again, he didn't really stand out as much. I think the Giuseppe shows might be coming to an end. I think this is a big 2 games for him, and I think even with that, Jared, I think it's a long shot. So does he
get picked up somewhere else? Do you think?
Depends. The only thing is, Jared, though, I've learned Giuseppe, and I don't watch him every day, but we know this and you know this. You can have all the talent in the world and you can be fast. If you're putting the ball on the carpet,
no, absolutely. No,
it's going to be a problem.
I completely get that. I completely get that. The drop balls are just, Andy, we watched enough of them 2 years ago.
Greg Little.
Ended the season with one of the worst drop balls I've ever seen in my life, which was a microcosm of the entire season. Oh, God. I was walking into Flannery's on 4th Street in Cleveland.
Corey Coleman.
Yeah, Corey Coleman.
So I'm actually going to jump ahead to one thing. Let's talk about Antonio Callaway.
Yep,
because Callaway, to me, is one of the most fascinating stories in the offseason that doesn't get a lot of talk about. When we did this podcast last year, you and I were like, my gosh, season goes on, Callaway's getting better, and you can see him on TV. Yeah. My son, Cameron, was becoming a big Callaway fan. You could see him making plays on the field. You could see him doing things and really advancing his game. And for obvious reasons, high ankle sprain, suspension, he came in out of shape, had a shaky camp. I mean, that's
Josh Gordon-esque.
I'd even say Josh Gordon-esque is right. And I'll say this too about Callaway now. I'm very interested to see how this plays out, Jared, because I really thought Callaway was going to have a breakout year. Yeah. And that has suddenly stopped. And I'll be fair. Higgins has done a great job in the offseason. He's done a great job in the preseason. So he's kind of taken that stronghold of 3. And now, with everything that's been going on behind the scenes, with looking at what's going to happen with special teams, Callaway's going to have a huge role, at least with special teams.
Well,
when he comes back,
let me ask this, because we've talked about how strange it was that Braxton Miller came in. Right, the Browns cut a tight end, They bring in Braxton Miller. This late in the game, if they're bringing him in, are they keeping him? Is he making the 53-man roster if they're bringing him in this late? And are they doing that because they want him at special teams? And to be that 3 or 4 wideout, I don't, because I honestly, and I don't know enough about how well that transition has went for Braxton. I don't know from quarterback to wide receiver. He's not the first former Ohio State quarterback to do it. I mean, this is 2 of them now. We've had both of them on the team. So.
Well, here's what I'd say about Braxton Miller. There's obviously Ohio ties. Mm-hmm. The kick returner thing makes sense. But the only thing I would say about Braxton Miller, it's taking on a flyer. It's going to take a lot for him to make this team. Oh. And it's also, to what you alluded to, these quarterback turning into wide receivers, Jared, hasn't really gone well.
Well, do we see a lot of him tonight then?
I wouldn't. I'd be playing Sheehy, and I'd be playing Ratley a lot. Wouldn't you? I wouldn't want to see what those 2 guys can do.
Well, I mean, what about at special teams then? Are we going to see Braxton running back?
I want to see. See, I'm not.
You think they've earned they deserve the shots more than Braxton does just walking in. But I think that they made room on the roster to bring him in. That says something.
Well, no, there's no doubt it does. But does Braxton play right away tonight? I don't think so. Probably not until the fourth quarter.
Oh,
Probably not until the fourth quarter.
Really? I have a feeling you're going to see him in the first half. And I have a feeling you're going to see him in the first half because I don't think this is going to be as conventional as we expect on a game 3, on the third game preseason game. I think that, I'll tell you this, if that first team offense minus Odell, minus Chubb, but if Baker marches them down the field, I don't know that you see more than 2 series with Baker. I don't know that you see more than 2 series. As much as he wants to play the whole first half, it's just not after Cam Newton. No.
Well, yeah, that was scary. The one thing I would also allude to what you're saying, though, that's the reason why I want Sheehy to play tonight. I really want this kid to have one last chance to make the team. Like, I really want to see him a lot. I kind of know what you're getting in Braxton. I guess that's the thing. I know what you're getting in Braxton Miller,
right?
In my opinion. I don't think there's going to be a lot of surprises unless he's like, man, I am super healthy. And you don't know, but I was not healthy the last 2 years for Houston, and now I'm ready to go. I think I know what I'm getting in Braxton Miller. Sheehy, because of his speed, if he learns how to catch consistently, he has a role on this team. But that's been the thing. He hasn't caught consistently. I think that's why Grossi and some others I've been reading are saying Sheehy Giuseppe's really playing for his job these next 2 games. Meaning he's on his way out. He's going to have to do something amazing to really get himself back in. Time will tell. With that in mind, I would love to see more of Sheehy. I think he will. I think Braxton Miller will play a ton in Game 4. I think in Game 3, you're going to see him a little bits. I don't think you're going to see him as much. The other big story, which is not as sexy or interesting, is right guard. Cush seemed to be in this spot, but all of a sudden Drew Forbes is now the hot man running. What's more interesting to me out of all this is Austin Corbett has dropped to backup center. Now, what does that mean for Austin Corbett? It's debatable. Cam Irving's made himself a nice little career in Kansas City becoming a right guard. So maybe Austin Corbett can make himself a nice little career in the center. I don't know. But obviously Austin Corbett has not worked out. It has dropped to the point where he's backup center, which is basically and looking what the Browns doing. They're basically saying we're hoping for next year. And after that, we don't know what else we can do. The only thing I would observe about the offensive line and watching the first 2 preseason games, jumping ahead to that too, I did not see a lot of problems with offensive line.
No, not a lot of problems.
But
the guys that they're plugging in, Andy, the guys that they're plugging in are holding their own. The guys that they're plugging in are holding their own. I worry a little bit about the second team, the backups. That I worry about.
And everybody does.
The pocket collapsed. Yeah, the pocket collapsed. And when you're just swapping out a guy here, a guy there to give a breather, whatever, I got it. Andy, what I want to jump back though to this Austin Corbett situation. I don't follow right guard like you said. We don't. And maybe I'm putting you on the spot, or maybe you're with me. But what exactly is the problem with Austin? Like, I don't get it. Is his technique not there? Is that really what it comes down to? Are his feet not there? What is the issue with? I mean, there's only a few things that you have to do at that position, right?
Well,
keep the guy in front of you. Come on.
Here's the thing that's alarming.
I know it's more than that, but
right. Here's the thing that's alarming about Corbett. This is now his second time running. He did have a chance last year to start too,
right?
And he failed.
He was expected to start even last year. Yeah.
Right. So Corbett's really on. I gotta be again. It reminds me a lot of Cam Irving, where they just don't know what to do with him at this point. And the only difference is the Browns have depth where they don't have to start Corbett. So they're actually putting him on the sideline, which I think is smart. If he's not playing well, you can't have him out there. And the thing is, Jared, if we're all being honest, when Corbett has been out there, 2 holdings, there's been some sloppy snaps. Corbett's struggling. He's really underwater right now. It's in his head. It's mental. But again, I've learned from Cam Irving and seeing what he's doing in Kansas City. I'm not going to say his career's over, but I'm definitely saying his career's at a stopgap with the Browns. He's going to have to make. He's going to have to make it backup center.
Didn't that piss you off seeing Cam Irving having success after he left? Because man, he was getting knocked on his ass on a regular basis.
How about this? It didn't. But Greg Robinson makes me feel a whole lot better.
Right.
I mean, Greg Robinson is the same story. So when you get Greg Robinson in there, it's kind of an even trade-off, in my opinion. So everything worked its way out. The other story here, too, which is a small one, but it does seem like Greedy Williams will be coming off the bench, according to Grossi.
Yep.
Terrence Mitchell is going to be the guy starting the opposite, which is not a bad thing.
No.
Terrence was good last year, and Ward's there. And it looks like everything's kind of filtering itself out. I mean, basically what I'm alluding to, then we'll get into Indy week. If this preseason game, right guard for sure. I guess we should talk about the last thing, the kicker. Other than that, Jared, I think this team's kind of settled itself out. Damian Raleigh is your sixth receiver.
Right.
He makes a team.
Yeah, we talked about Jalen Strong as well as.
Yeah, Jalen Strong's in. He's gonna make it.
Yeah.
He's gonna. And by the way, that you just hope you get a pyramid situation for a guy who's ready to show off what he's supposed to do coming into the league. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago.
What I would say is, Andy, I think what we've learned throughout this camp and throughout preseason so far is that the Browns look like they have almost everything together outside of kicker, right? Outside of kicker, they've got everything worked out for the most part.
Right guard and kicker.
Right guard and kicker. But the problems that the Browns have had seem weird. Like their fixes seem weird. I think it's weird that you see the Scottish Hammer kicking a field goal and then finding out he's not going to be kicking field goals, even though he was nailing. Like there's weird things. Like what do you mean? Like I don't know why. Then why'd he do that? Then why'd he kick the 60-yarder? What? Stop it!
He wants to make the team.
Well, he wants to make the team. He wants to make the team. Well, then why isn't he kicking field goals tonight? Why?
I don't know.
I don't get. There's just weird. There's weird thing. That to me is weird. It's weird. It's a weird situation. I'm going to say weird a million times. Do a shot game. Do a shot every time I say weird.
One thing that I will keep in mind. By the way, I forget my word. There's a phrase I use a lot. I'm sure it'll come to me as I do this podcast. It's the
what you're alluding to. You say that one. You say allude.
Yeah, I do. Whenever I'm jogging, I listen back to this podcast. I'm like, my fucking God, how many times do I say blah, 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 blah? Anyways, people should watch me jog and talk to myself, so I'm listening to myself. No wonder I'm single. So going back to what we were
You're gonna make me choke on my green tea.
Boy, we are two happening guys on a Friday night.
My old man antioxidant filled green tea. All right.
The only thing I'll say about the Scottish Hammer kick, it was on a tee. And that's a huge difference. And I know people laugh at that, but it's true. There's a reason why we don't kick on tees. It's a huge difference between kicking it and having someone hold it. You get no, wait, hold on. Here's the other thing, too. He did that on purpose because he wants to make this team. And it's silly to cut the punter we have, like Colquitt, because Colquitt's a pro. He's an outstanding
Colquitt's a badass. Colquitt puts the ball. That dude, you want to talk about winning field position. Jim Tressel would have loved him. Colquitt, and he's cocky. He's not in a bad way. He's a confident guy that punts. Like he that's just who he is. He's got a little attitude to him, and I like.
Well, I'm gonna get the Scottish Hammer away for a second. I don't think that's realistic. These next two games, this is the playoff of all playoffs for kickers, because everyone I've read says, who the hell knows who's kicking the balls? Because it seems like Joseph's kind of been in the lead.
Right, and settling in a little bit maybe.
Yeah, but Seibert has pulled even this week. It sounds like Seibert's had a really strong week. That's not the right word. Joseph's had a weaker week, and Seibert's done more on par to keep himself above water. What I would say to all this, though, to what Jared's alluding to, which I actually agree with one thing Jared's going with the Scottish Hammer. The kicker situation on the Browns is very much up in the air. So to actually say the Scottish Hammer shouldn't be in play is ridiculous because these other two guys aren't making any kicks. In-game practice, it's all the same shit. That's my point. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I'm saying it's not crazy what you're alluding to or anybody else. Because
they haven't brought anyone else in either, Andy. Like, what are they...
That's going to change, though, because once the Buccaneers are a team, I know that Grossi's talked about, they're going to have two kickers. There will be players. I think, Jared, there will be okay. I don't think the kicker, outside of Scottish Hammer, I don't think the kicker's on the Browns right now. I don't think he's on the Browns. I don't think it's Seibert. I don't think it's Joseph.
Okay. You think it's that girl?
Carly Lloyd is not a bad idea.
Wasn't she just here? Wasn't she just in Baltimore? Didn't she just kick here in Baltimore?
Yeah.
A 53-yarder or something?
She's a proven pro, and if she wants to make kicks and she wants to do it, I would be all for it. All for it.
I have a feeling the Haslams would be all for it, too.
I would, too.
Right? Don't they right? Don't the Haslams seem like the owners that would be the ones that would be like, get that girl in here? I really feel that they are.
She would fit in great in Cleveland. I would love to see it. It'd be a great story, and it'd be great for the sport. I would love to see that. How realistic that is, only Carly Lloyd knows. Because honestly, Jared, I think if Carly Lloyd wants to do it, she's going to find a team. I do.
Good.
Except for Carly Lloyd. It's really up to her.
I'd love her to end up with the Browns.
Me too.
Wouldn't you love to see a female kicker win a playoff game late with a field goal?
It would fit in this team perfectly.
It would.
It would fit this team perfectly. But again, I'll say it again. I don't think it's so much as Carly Lloyd get a job. I think it is does Carly Lloyd want a job? Because I think someone's going to sign her. I do.
Was she getting $5 million?
I do. You know what, Jared?
$6
I hate to say this, but
$9 million.
She's worth $5 to $6 million. Here's why.
Yeah.
The ticket draw alone would be unbelievable.
Well, the Browns are already sold out at this point. They're pulling in a younger crowd. I mean, I don't know that would be, but you're right, though. It would be. Marketing,
tickets, let alone wins.
Jerseys.
Oh, my gosh. It'd be great.
Right?
So what? Maybe great. All right, so let's get to these preseason games, which have not been thrilling so far in Indianapolis. The one star of this year, too, outside, by the way, the other guy, too, I want to mention quickly, then I want to get to my point. Nick Chubb looks ready to go.
Yep.
I don't think it gets talked about enough because he's not in the press. Nick Chubb, I think, is going to have a big year. The other guy, too, I think has not been quiet, but I think he's having a great camp is Freddie Kitchens. I think he's done a nice job with all this stuff. I know there's been some people have been critical of him. I don't agree with that. I think I loved his attitude after the Colts win. I agreed with him. I thought that was a sloppy win. I liked how he came out there and really attacked how they played after the game. I loved his attitude throughout the whole Indianapolis week. I like this Freddie Kitchens hire more, and more, Jared, the more I get to know this guy. Now, he's got to win games, and everything changes when that ball goes up against the Titans. For that to be said, he's had a wonderful preseason. I don't think it's mentioned enough. I've been very happy with Freddie Kitchens so far.
He really does tough love well, right?
Yes.
He does it really well. He'll chew your ass and then he'll give you a hug. I mean, he cares. He wants the job to get done. I've played sports for guys like that. Not enough guys like that, to be honest. A majority of the guys that act like hard asses only know how to be hard asses, and I've dealt with that. In fact, it's why I walked away from baseball. I walked away from baseball, and it sucked. I hated it. It ruined everything. 13 years I walked away because I had a coach that knew how to be an asshole, but he didn't know how to pick you up.
Freddie does, and
Freddie is Freddie is definitely that guy that he's trying to motivate you. And he also recognizes that he's got 90 guys out there that he has to keep control of, right? He's herding cats. Herding cats. Herding dogs. Herding dogs, actually.
I was going to say herding elk. Big elk. Stuff you'd see in like the Rocky Mountains. I mean, these aren't kitty cats.
But they listen. They listen.
They do.
And the same thing with Baker at 24 years old, being able to, command and have a presence and authority in his second year. And, I heard Tony Grossi say it. This is just who he is. This is just who he is. And it's great. Both of these guys are just being who they are. They're not pretending. They're not faking it. They're not blowing smoke. They're being who they are. And that's refreshing because that to me is sustainable. Faking it is not. And they're not faking it.
Agreed. The other thing from Indy I'll take that I thought I liked a lot, this guy, Dearness Johnson, has really stepped in to be the backup running back. Obviously, Kareem Hunt's your two once we get past the Pats game. Yeah. But I thought Dearness Johnson did a nice. I thought he's looked, and I'll get to this now.
Bounce above Hilliard, huh? Yeah.
I thought Hilliard looked shaky in the first preseason game. I did not think that went well. I know people like to poo-poo that. It's one game. I thought Johnson really made a nice. He felt like he belonged, looked good, looked the part. I'm very excited about him. The other guy, it's a shame he got injured on. He's on IR now with the hamstrings, DJ Montgomery. He played a great game in Indy, really looked good, but he's not going to be playing now. Jalen Strong also has been playing better. He's slowly, Jared, had better. You know what? If this works out, Jalen Strong looks the part. So that's another guy just adding in there. And we talked about how this is a big game for Ratley. Sounds like Ratley, and basically he's battling himself at this point because of all the other injuries. The only other thing I got for Indianapolis, which is an old story, but I do want to talk about it. This whole thing about Freddie starting fights or Freddie starting whatever, that whole thing in Indy, though, you and I kind of alluded to it, and I want to talk about it again. Sometimes in life, you have to make a stamp of like, the old crap's done.
Yeah.
We're not that team anymore.
Put it to
and
bed.
that's what it meant to me early on. Now, again, it's preseason. It will go away very quickly. But I liked already how you established, like, you know what? We're not the old fucking Browns.
No.
Time to get some attitude. Time to get nasty. And, I don't want to start trouble and get injured, but let's get nasty. And the team did. And
They had to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. They cracked a few eggs. Let's do it. Whatever.
They did.
Don't make a habit of it. Don't make a habit of it.
No. But they needed that. They needed that. So I thought that was a good thing about this week. Again, I don't want the Browns getting into fights. I don't want the Browns causing injuries.
No.
But the Browns are reminding me of exactly what the Indians were in 94, 95. The Indians were, and fairly so, the Indians were terrible in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
They had to break that mantra. I mean, hell, there's a whole movie. There's a whole movie that came out of it. The bigger thing here, though,
young,
was Jared,
brash, and unapologetic.
Yes. And the same thing here, Jared, applies to this team. It reminds me of the 90s Indians. They're cocky. They're brash. They have a coach that I thought Hargrove did too. Freddie even takes another notch above. This team accepts it and wants it and takes it on. And I think it's great. And even in this small practice, they said, you know what? It is time of this shit to end.
Yeah.
It is time for the new Browns, and I like that. Again, I don't want fights. I don't want flags or penalties, but I like that. I thought that was a really good sign from Coach. Liked it a lot.
No argument here, Andy, because the bottom line is this team has been pushed around. They've got guys posterized. You've had quarterbacks helicoptered in the end zone. God bless you, Josh McCown. You've had guys with their faces stomped on that couldn't make tackles. You've had just a number of embarrassing moments. A number. Jeez, oh, man.
Yep.
So many. The number, so I can't even count. Andy, I can't even. It's been awful. There is no overstating how awful the last 19 fucking years have been to be a Browns fan.
It was Indians bad. It was as bad as it was in the Indians, where in 86, 87, Indian Rising, SI cover, everything fell apart. That's how bad it was, Jared. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. I mean,
and it was heartbreaking because from such a storied. From such a storied franchise, from Paul Brown to Jim Brown to Bernie Kosar, Brian Sight, the Browns of the 80s, before that, the Cardiac Kids. And then to have them come back, and we all knew, I mean, we talked about this when we did the article with The Ringer. It was never easy. You just kept swallowing and wondering what's next.
Yep.
What's next?
Well, the bigger thing that came out of that, the Browns became, and they had earned it, they were known as that laughable organization. And they had earned that. They had earned it really well.
They did nothing.
Nothing
to prove it wrong. And the other unfortunate thing is that attitude about the franchise has an effect on the city, on what people think of the city.
Yeah.
Which drives me up a wall because everyone knows what I say. The only people who don't like Cleveland are people who haven't been there.
No, I agree. Well said. Let me ask you this.
No, I don't mean to sit here and whine about how the last 19 years have been compared to what we're walking into now, but it's just, I don't know, maybe it's cathartic for me at the moment because I'm just so damn proud, to be able to have a team to root for that is going to put something at least watchable on the field.
Well, they're watchable and they're going to be successful. I think the last thing about all this, and then I want to get to Beckham real quick. The Browns have been waiting way too long for this. They had earned it. There wasn't bad luck. The Browns had earned this 20-year run here, which is ending this year. But they had really earned it. But it's good to be back. And the thing is, I thought that even with 2002 playoff run, I've said this a lot. I don't ever felt like we've gotten over the move yet. And by the way, I don't think we will until we start winning some games here this year.
No, you're
But
right.
that's why I think it's been such a long run. And that's why guys like Kosar and Biner and Mack and Clay Matthews and all these guys are so popular still, because that's the last real successful thing we've had with the Browns. And we glom onto it. And that's why they're big stars. And they're always will be big stars.
You ain't kidding. I hold on to it more than,
but-
I mean, it's my childhood watching the Browns is what, those are my memories. Those are my memories. I remember that better than I remember a lot of I try to forget a lot of the awful times that we've had to go through.
Because outside your Phil Dawson and your Joe Thomas, that's about it. There's really not a whole lot else to bring back.
And I don't want to take away from Joe Thomas or Phil Dawson. But what's that say? I mean, these are positions that don't bring you a ton of W's.
No.
They matter. So I don't want to get that confused.
No,
I don't want Joe to kick my ass.
No. They definitely matter.
But you get my point. We just.
It's been a long run. And you know what? Even Joe's thrilled. And Joe's going to be a Hall of Famer. And it wasn't Joe's fault, but it's just been a long run. I'm going to change topics quickly because this has been bantered about. And I want to hear, I'll give my 2 cents first.
Yeah.
Beckham has not played.
Yep.
I don't really care. I'm not really bothered by it. I've been surprised to hear some people think he's been wrapped in bubble wrap. Other people have been saying like, oh, he hasn't played. Is there something going on? I want to see him play. I'm not big into this, seeing Beckham. Are you? I don't need to see him till the Titans game.
I think that the Browns are kind of figuring out a new way. And I guess it's been, from what I've heard, it's been compared to what the Rams did last year during preseason. Okay. And that's not putting these guys out there to get injured, not putting those guys out there in the preseason. It's why we're not going to see a full half of Baker tonight. I think Freddie knows that he worked their asses off throughout camp, that everyone's banged and bruised up. Excuse me. And that these rests right now, they matter. And what do you want? Why do you want, why do you want Odell out there other than for your own selfish needs? Because it's not like him and Baker haven't been working together. And it's not like, I mean, let's remember, this is one of the elite wide receivers in the league. Elite, top tier. Yep. Stay healthy. That's always been the issue with him. Stay healthy.
And
so why? Why send him out there? Why?
No, I'm with you. I don't think it bothers me. I want to hit Callaway. I'm going to hit Callaway, then some bullet points. Again, with Callaway, I think it's a big, these 8 weeks for Callaway, I think are really big. It sounds like he's going to have a high ankle sprain. 4 suspended, probably a little longer. I'll have to see when Callaway comes back. It looks like it's anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, Jared. But he's going to be definitely out 4 because of the suspension. But for Callaway, I think it's so big, Jared, because he was on his way to being one of those Class B receivers, maybe even Class A, but definitely Class B, where he's going to be battling for the ball and having a right to say it. And I just have been surprised how much he's fallen. And I hope it wasn't his last 8 games.
He might be depressed.
Well, he's got a lot to he has so much talent. It's a shame because he is so talented. I hope for his sake he's okay, and hopefully he gets better because they could definitely use him. We didn't talk about the first preseason game, so real fast. Higgins, which we've already alluded to, he's looked so good. Myles Garrett in that first preseason game, look, I've been a little hard on Garrett. I will not be hard on Garrett this year. He looks nasty. He's going to be so good. Yeah. And the other guy, too,
I'm sorry, Andy. I was listening to Jarid Cherry talk about this earlier, and hearing him say it, it really does mean. He said you've got a defensive line that all 4 of them could end up Pro Bowlers this year. He said
Sheldon Richardson looked good too.
He said he believes that the defense has a chance of being better than the offense, which
think about that
is crazy to even say. That. It's even crazier to think that you don't have to do a safety blitz. You don't have to do elaborate pass rushes. You literally are going to get sacks just bringing your front 4. You are going to achieve the goal of sacking your quarterback just by bringing that front 4.
Yep.
That's fun. That's going to be fun.
I think also the other guy, too, to look out for, he's been quiet. Avery, I think, is going to play better on defense this year. You haven't really heard his name, and there is no doubt the one rookie who has stood out in both preseason games is Wilson. He stands out. I don't know why he dropped as far as he did. I don't know why scouts didn't see it, and maybe this is just a hot start and he'll cool off. But God, Jared, even in that second preseason game, and he didn't do anything electrifying, you felt his presence on TV. He looks the part. I am excited about Wilson. Really excited about Wilson.
Well, what's great about that is we were worried about the linebacker position and
not anymore,
and how it was going to pan out, and you were wondering how Schobert was going to do coming off of the second half of last year. That he didn't look so great. Yeah, Mac Wilson's gonna fill.
Oh, he's
gonna fill that role just fine, brother. Just fine, and I am all for it. I am here for a different type of attack.
Yes, we will recap the Browns more after the preseason game with the Bucs, and then after that, really, it'll be a rolling out to the first regular season game with the Titans. Let's now flip to the other side.
Wait, Andy, you don't want to talk. Hang on, you don't want to talk. You don't want to talk about Hugh Jackson's comments as of late, admitting that he failed.
Who?
Hugh Jackson.
Who?
Hugh Jackson.
I can't hear you. We're gonna go to the tribe. I can't. You know what? I have nothing against him, man. God bless him. Make some money and be on your way. I mean, seriously, I don't have anything. I don't have anything on Hugh Jackson. Do you? I got nothing. Nothing.
I just saw the comments and I wanted to throw it out there. That's all.
Well, we'll get.
He said he failed. He said he failed.
He's right. By the way, congrats. You're right.
It only took you a post media tour of claiming that it wasn't your fault, and now, all right, I'm done.
He's a terrible, nice man, terrible, nice man, terrible coach. Speaking about failing, the tribe in Queens,
Cleveland Indians.
Well, boy, I'll tell you, you want to talk about a letdown. I went to one of those goddamn games in Queens, and boy, oh boy. That was a gut-wrenching series. Look, all the Captain Obvious things can be said as the Indians saw them all. An error unraveling, a reliever closer unraveling, and then just a nasty old two-hitter in a rain-soaking game in Queens. The Indians got really shook up every way possible.
When did the rain out get called, by the way? Did it even get through the eighth? I fell asleep. I didn't stay up. I couldn't.
I didn't stay up either, so it had to be around 11:30 midnight, I'm assuming. But let's just get to the bullet points real quick. That was an important eye-opening series for all the wrong reasons. The one remark I made to you and I made to others on Tuesday, and it certainly looked that way like last night on Thursday night, the Tribe looks tired. They look fatigued. For the first time, Jared, I thought they really looked sluggish on Tuesday. I just thought they were really going through the motions at times. They didn't have the same spark, same spunk.
That's the right word for it. Do you think that they're just fatigued because they were on the road, because it was a long way to New York and coming up?
I don't know.
I'm hoping that's what it is.
I don't know, but I'll give some of that on Tuesdays. I thought the team looked tired. The other thing too that has been alluded to a lot by Manning, especially in a couple interviews, the Tribe defense, and Terry's teams have done this. They go on these streaks of bad defense, and they're having one of those bad defensive runs right now.
Yeah,
where it's like the ball just eats them alive and just can't seem to get it out right. Mercado's error was so bad. I mean, my son was at the game, and it looked like his jaw hit the seat when he saw him drop that fly ball. It was bad. There's nothing to break down there. And Mercado,
he looked like, I don't know, did he pull his eye off too soon? I mean, I couldn't. It looked weird even the way that he dropped it. I just put my head down. The only thing
I keep hearing now, and I'm making a big observation, the Indians make a lot of one-handed catches where they don't bring the hand behind the glove.
No, you're
right.
And
that's been noted by a lot of people in the last 48 hours.
Side.
And it gets you into sloppy habits. And Mercado did not bring his hand around and then drops the ball. And you got to wonder, like, the Indians were really getting to that point where they need to think and focus on that stuff. Because that's how errors and mental things go down. So that was Monday. Yep. Tuesday. All right, Wednesday. When Carlos Santana hit that ball out, I remember I was like, oh my God, this is the MVP. We are going in the stratosphere. Here we go. And you know what? Here's Brad Hand's chance to redeem himself after a shaky appearance in the Bronx.
Yeah.
We all saw what happened. Rip double, bunt over, and then that whole fiasco. For people who didn't watch Facebook, I'll relive it real quickly.
Yeah, we did. I was just going to say, we talked about it on Facebook the other day, but yeah, go ahead.
Bob relive it right here. Brad Hand messed up. I do not want to hear about how he was supposed to follow home plate, how the play was to home. The reason why they walked Alonso was to get the double play in order, and everybody knew it. And that was a tailor-made, sharply hit play to first. Santana whipped that ball out, and the runner for the Mets, the hitter, was barely out of the box by the time the ball was out of his hands. Brad Hand sat there because he didn't know what to do. He had a mental fart. And I got to be honest, I don't want to pick on a guy or scapegoat, and he's not the reason why they lost. But Jarid, that was a fuck-up. He had to go to first base to get that ball. That's the only play he had. And for that kind of play to happen, it set the whole inning in motion, and you could feel from there. But Brad Hand has to get to first base. Yeah. That's the reason why you walk Alonso, to get the double play and ball. And I know the Indians came out and said the opposite. And I know Perez and Tito, and I like how they did that. They're protecting Hand. Right. They're protecting him from stuff, in my opinion. I don't know this, but in my opinion.
Well, but we talk about this, Andy. You don't want the mentality of your closer you don't want him feeling defeated, whether he did it or not, whether he should feel defeated or not. It's dangerous. But at this point, Andy, and we've talked about this, Tribe's 3.5 back of the Twins. Could be way worse.
Could be way worse.
They could be back half back in the wild card.
Behind the Rays and A's.
Which says a lot. I don't think I realized it was going to get tight like that again on the wild card race, to be honest with you.
The A's have gotten hot.
I can't believe it. I really can't, because I thought the A's were falling apart, and that just isn't the case. And the
Yankees hit the snooze alarm and got swept in Oakland. It's amazing. We've talked about this a lot. The Indians have been snake bitten by schedule.
But here's the deal. Yes. Here's the deal. What do we do? The way that I talked about it the other day, when closers fall apart, it happens fast. Yeah. They burn. I mean, they live fast, and it goes away just as fast. So now what? What do you even do? What do you do? Do you cross your fingers and say something as crazy as Carrasco?
Okay, I want to finish Brad Hand, then I'm going to get to that. Because Carrasco's not going to be there for 2 more weeks anyways.
Right.
Hand has to start pitching better. And here's my other point about Brad Hand. I think I've hammered home the thing. That was the play. I don't want to hear about the home plate thing. The play was the second to first. Brad Hand should have covered first.
You don't walk the bases loaded if it's not for the double play.
Period.
You don't do it that way. You don't. Period. You don't.
Period.
You don't.
Period. So I don't want to hear about how it should have come to home. No one thought that ball was going to home. Sorry. You can watch a replay millions of times. I did. No one thought that ball was going home. No one did. Okay. Going back to your other point now. Brad Hand has to start pitching better, Jared, because I'll tell you what, it's going to be even shaky tonight if it's 6-3 with Merrifield coming up to the plate and a man on. It's going to be shaky, and that doesn't even mean the tying run's coming to the plate. Brad Hand has gone into Bob Wickman, Joe Borowski territory, where I don't know if the lead is safe anymore. He needs to close some games. Royals and Tigers included.
Well, maybe this is his chance to get it under control against a team like the Royals. And I'll tell you what, even if they're up 5 runs, 6 runs,
bring him in.
You bring him in. You have to
bring him in.
You have to bring him in. He's got to work. He's got to get through it. You've got to force him to get through it.
The other guy too to start watching is Simber. Simber's had a bad run lately, not pitching as well. On the opposite end, Goody's still pitching well, even though he had that one blip in New York. He's still pitching well. I think Whitgren's come back. He's been pitching better lately. Oliver Perez has had a great second half, so I have no complaints there. Clippert's even pitched better, so there are some gems in there. But Jared, the Simber and especially Brad Hand has been shocking. They have really, Brad Hand especially, and you can tell the team.
They've got a week to figure it out.
Yes,
right? They've got this week to figure it out. This week coming up to figure it out before they play Tampa.
And I thought that was a huge series
in Tampa.
Huge series. Huge series. And the Indians have not done well against Kevin Cash teams. That's a huge,
it's going to be
huge
hot
series.
and muggy and miserable. So if they're tired, that ain't going to help either. It's going to suck the life out of them.
They'll be indoors. They're going to turn up that AC.
I forgot about that. My bad.
And they're going to turn up that AC.
Thought about it as soon as it came out of my mouth. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, no, they're going to be in. The Ringer would like to talk about our favorite domes. Well, we are not good for those articles, but we are always good for good or confusing where the Chargers play. But anyways, I think it's going to be really good to see Brad Hand go out there and figure this out. So I was going to say the same thing. The only other thing for the Tribe that is alarming to me that I do think the Tribe needs to start paying attention to is, they've had this nice run and they've had this great story. Jose's playing well. I still think Puig's playing well and all this stuff. You just hope, Jared, that what these losses taught them is you've come so far, but you have a long way to go. This is still a hard run. Even with the Tigers and going to Detroit and playing Kansas City at home this week, you still have the Rays, the Angels one more time. You got to go through the Twins 6 more times. You have big games. And then at the end of the year, Phillies, then I think it's the White Sox, and then they finish up in Washington. So big games all bound. The Indians still have a ways to go is my big thing.
And we're talking about a team, Andy, that has come back from 12 behind and taken the lead in the division. And I think that finding themselves again in a situation where they've got to face adversity, that they're young enough that they probably are looking at each other going, we've done this before, we can do it again. I'm just hoping that mentality carries them through and helps pick them up after they, go through getting swept like that. At Citi Field.
Let's see what happens at home with KC. The only other note I got, and you kind of alluded to it. Look, it's social media, so you can't really overanalyze it.
Yeah, I've got my opinion on it, so go ahead and give yours.
I love the Indian social media. That was going too far. And even when I read that comment initially, I'm like, fringe team. Like, that's an interesting word. And it really sparked off the Mets, and I used this bulletin board material. I'd be interested to hear what internal meetings were like at the Indians, because that would really you can't start becoming the story. And the Post made it a story today. It was a huge story.
All right, here we go. One, of course, the Post made it a story. Of course, New York is already amped up over anything Cleveland as it is.
It's Cleveland versus New York.
Did you ever? Yeah, how fucking weird is that?
By the way, I love Cleveland. I like New York a lot.
So do I. I like going there. I would never live there. I'd like going there, but
I could do either.
I'm sorry. I love Cleveland. There's no.
Cleveland's number one. I never said that. Cleveland's number one. I get it.
But here's what I'm getting at. I got to make a couple of these points. Of course they did. Of course they did. Of course they did. I'm surprised Stephen A. Smith didn't talk about it all day. You know what I mean? I'm surprised. Did Francesa talk about it? Like, I'm surprised. Like, they probably all bitched about it all day. Whatever. I don't care, because got it. That's their MO. That's what they do. They'll take anything and they'll turn it into whatever they want, and then they'll find a way to.
Do you want the Indians media?
That's one. Two is, I think that when they wrote Fringe, it wasn't meant to be a knock. It was meant to say, hey, this is a team that had been struggling, and they've pulled themselves into a position to be playoff contenders. They're working their way up the ladder. Fringe, I'm dead serious. And then 3, the intent of the Post, because I heard other people complaining about this, and I thought it was a horrible take. Complaining that, don't tell me how to feel after being swept. And listen, if you'd follow this Indians social media thing, if you follow their Twitter, you know that all they're trying to do is keep you going. Don't worry, we'll be okay. Right? That's the point of that tweet. We'll be okay. We'll regroup. We'll regather. I think we're making way too big of a deal out of it. I think that, yes, they'll have to rethink their words next time a little bit more carefully, but is it really that big a fucking deal? Fringe team? Look, they are a fringe team. What do you want? They're a fringe team.
Look,
just like the Giants, nobody expected them to draft who they drafted.
Look,
where's the lie? Where's the lie? That's what I'm saying. Where's the lie? There's no lie.
But I don't want bulletin board material for other teams either.
So get your nipples untwisted, New York. and chill out. It's not a big deal.
I thought the word fringe was a buzzworthy word. You got to be careful about that. Be careful about that.
You're right.
You say, you know what you say.
But
okay,
you say, hey, then you know what you say? Hey, this is what you do. You go, hey, be careful about that. That's all.
Right.
It's not that deep. It's not that deep.
Here's what I don't want. I don't want Spike Lee Pacer situation where people now are going to look for Indians Twitter to get motivated. Okay. And you're slowly going there.
Out of the millions of tweets. Listen, let's talk about Rays. Let's talk about the Rays social media. Let's talk about them.
I don't care about the Rays. I care about the Indians. Just no more. Jared, I don't want.
You're right. I'm deflecting, but
yeah, I don't want. Look,
the Steve Irwin thing was too much.
I love the Colin Cowherd stuff. I love the Baker Mayfield stuff. I like all that.
Well,
I like how they have dry humor. It's fantastic. It's funny. I don't want bulletin board material for other teams.
Yeah, I just don't think that was their intent with the fringe thing. That's all.
No,
I don't think that was
no.
their
By
intent.
the way, I agree with you. It's a life lesson. Sometimes you can't say the word fringe. Sometimes you can. You can't say it in the tweet, though, because that will irk an athlete quickly. I knew as soon as that tweet came out, I'm like, well, that's
be even
that's
funnier. I think if Indians Twitter started using the word fringe more often on purpose now, I think it would be hilarious. There you go.
They did
make a joke out of it. That's my point.
By the way, they're savvy. Look, the Indians Twitter account's one of the best social things to watch. I love them. I mean that with the kindest words. Just no more bulletin board material.
And I need to correct. I can't remember who it was, but they were referring to the Rays, I believe. Okay. And it had to do with that Steve Irwin comment. I don't remember who it was. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was. All right. Well, some of you know, Google it. Just Steve Irwin Rays Twitter comment, blah. But it wasn't the Rays that made the comment. It was about the Rays.
Here's the big thing about tonight in these next two games. And I'm done with the Indians. I want to see how they react. 2 out of 3 are a sweep. 2 out of 3 are.
Well, they have to. We talked about this. Between the White Sox, the Royals, and the Tigers, they've got 15 games left with those 3 teams, and they need to win at least 11 of them.
Yep.
At least 11 of them. Yep. Even more now that they're 3.5 back, in my opinion.
I always ask this, and you know what I'll say. So I'll break the ice. How much I love this team. I don't think they win the Central. Do you still see the Tribe winning the Central?
50-50.
Okay. Making the playoffs.
I think that's 60-40.
I think it's still 80. I'm going to keep my percentage. I still think it's 80. They had a bad week. Doesn't mean it's over. They just had a bad week.
I think if they don't play well against the Rays, they're not helping their cause.
That's a good litmus test. I think it's the Angels, too. They're going to need to win all those games and gobble them up. Because the Angels, they're not that great.
Where is that Angels series? Is that at home or out west?
No, they've already played them at home, so it's in Anaheim.
So there you go. They don't play well out west, and
that's my point. But that's my point, Jared. I love
the Rangers. They don't play the Rangers well out in Texas. They don't play Oakland well. They don't play Angels well.
Seattle's the only team. Seattle, they seem to always do okay, but
yeah.
Other than that, that's it. All right, so to wrap it up, college football starts with Miami and Florida. It's a great little matchup here, and they're calling it Week 0. I'll be watching all that. We will do a college football preview next week. We will focus on the big 3 around this area of the country, the Bucks, the Irish, and the Wolverines. And then we'll kind of do some things. I'm going to do some picks. There's some under-overs. Of course, I love that kind of stuff. For people who don't know, I picked some of the best under-overs in baseball right now. I'm going to get cocky about this. I am very confident I'm going to go 5 out of 6 or maybe even 6 out of 6 with my picks. Check them out on our blog, clevelandandbeyond.net. And I'll be picking some other things next week too. But quickly to the Miami and Florida matchup. Look, the Canes have a new coach. Florida's got Mullins. It's always a fun matchup. These two teams are always decent. But, it's a great way to start off the college football season. I am excited about college football. I'm excited to talk to Nathan next week about the Buckeyes. He's the new Cleveland.com beat reporter.
Yep.
It'll be a fun year for our 3 teams. We'll get into that more. But very excited about the college football season to get here. Very excited. I love this time here.
There's we can all get on board with this one. Harbaugh has got himself in a pickle.
With Fickle.
A fickle pickle. Oh, God. Well, we'll talk about that too. AndyandJared.com. clevelandandbeyond.net. Check it out. Website or those websites, you'll link right to the podcast, and then we've got the blog up there as well. You'll see all of Andy's picks. Also, shoot us an email, andyandjared@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @CLEandBeyond. On Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond. And let's see, what else am I forgetting? You can listen to the podcast anywhere podcasts are available: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, your Alexa device. I think I saw it on like iHeartRadio. We're there too, I guess. I saw that the other day. So it looks like we're everywhere. So
we're excited to be on iHeartRadio.
Yeah. And proud to be a part of iHeartRadio, I guess. And
silent partner.
And of course, our not so silent partner, Waiting for Next Year. Check them out, waitingfornextyear.com. Original Cleveland sports content right there for you, the Cleveland sports fan. Andy, anything left?
I have a lot of things for the college football things, so I'll save for that. The only thing I do want to talk about quickly, it's interesting to see what's going to happen with Jay-Z in the NFL. There's a lot that's been talked about here the last few days and
Don't get me started on that.
Last week. Sounds like he's not only going to be putting in thoughts about how the league can be more social, but also looks like he's going to be a majority owner of some team. And I think that's going to be great. I think I'm interested to see this stuff. And I know there's been a lot of backlash from players who are not so happy that Jay-Z will be an owner. And they think that he's going against Kaepernick. So that's a whole interesting dynamic there.
I can have this. Now, here's the deal. This is the problem, because the nuance of this situation and the facts of this situation are difficult to discuss because it's such a polarizing issue.
That's right.
To people who just think that it was all wrong. And I'm here to say that as a Afghanistan veteran, 12-year Air Force veteran, someone who served, who also knows the story behind the story regarding why Kaepernick kneeled and chose to kneel, and the discussion he had with another veteran to come up with that way of socially protesting peacefully. I even wrote an article for it when I had my other job over at that other place that I won't even say. And I don't know, Andy. It to me, seeing Jay-Z do this, I don't know. I don't know.
Listen, an African American owner would be a good thing for the league.
Yeah,
would be a good thing for the league.
I've just never been a big fan of Jay-Z, and I've got my not sports reasons for that. And the same thing goes for Beyonce. It would have to do with her where she's done some private concerts and then had to give the money back because of the backlash. So I'm just not a big fan of how they do it. Sorry,
I hear you. Well, I won't get into fandom about Jay-Z. What I'm a fan of
I already laid it out, apparently. You didn't expect to do that. Sorry.
I have no opinion. What I am a fan of is seeing diversity in owners. And I think it'd be great to have a guy who's African-American to be on the board. I think that'd be a great thing for the league. When it comes to all the other stuff, I don't know. I don't try to act hip and cool. I don't know what's in or out. I can barely pick out people who in these. I actually made myself listen to the top 50 songs of the America right now. Couldn't recognize one.
Well, that's a different. No, the music right now is.
Right. But my point being is, I don't know.
We could make an album, throw some auto tune on it. It'd be great, Andy. It'd sell 1 million records.
Reverb.
Maybe that's what we should do instead of the podcast.
Maybe. But anyways, I wanted to throw that in there real quickly. The other last thing is, again, I think, we kind of touched upon the Browns a lot. But, I do want to touch on the Tribe. This is an interesting period for this team. They've done such a great job getting back. This team is very likable. I just don't want to see one bad trip to Queens ruin a season. I just don't want to see that. And by the way, I don't think this team will. But it's been such a great ride. I've enjoyed it so much. It was interesting to see Jared in a bad way how quickly it unraveled. And it unraveled in 3 games.
He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond. Let's go, Sheehy Giuseppe. Let's go, whoever the kicker is. I don't know.
Roll Tribe. Win tonight. Roll Tribe. No one gets hurt in the Browns game. We'll
talk to you again soon. Take care.